Okay.
So the question was, we've got a foster puppy that likes to put paws up on the counter when dinner is being cooked, and how to keep the puppy from doing that. She's about at that age range where suddenly she's realized that she is physically able to do that kind of thing. She's becoming more aware of her body control, and so that's a very normal development for puppies around 5 months old or so, getting to that age that they realize, oh, I can jump up onto things, and it's just their curiosity. We do so many things up on countertops and tables that the dog is going to be drawn to that because we are doing something, therefore it must be interesting. So when you are cooking, one, it helps to have a designated person in the family responsible for the dog's behavior for whatever period of time. So it could be an hour, it could be a 2-hour chunk of time, it could be a half an hour, whatever works for your family, of so-and-so is responsible for making sure the puppy doesn't chew on shoes, have an accident, jump up on the counters. If you have that designated responsibility, that helps, because otherwise what ends up happening is you get a diffusion of responsibility and everybody in the family says, well, I thought you were watching, or I thought you were watching, versus we know exactly who is supposed to be watching. Now let's say I need to run to my car for something. I'll say, hey, I'm running to the car. So-and-so, can you please watch, keep an eye on the puppy while I go outside? So that's gonna help for a lot of different situations. With jumping up on the counters specifically, it's helpful to tether the puppy to one individual, preferably not the person who is actively doing the cooking, because then you are directly in front of the stovetop, or you're chopping things up on the countertop, and then the puppy is right there and able to jump up. If you do tether the puppy to the person who is doing the cooking, then I would recommend anchoring the leash. So if let's say I tether my dog right here to me, and I'm gonna pretend that I'm cooking at a countertop, I am stepping on his leash. I can step on it with 2 feet, depending on the size of my puppy. This is a big boy, so if he were to jump, he would probably throw me off balance slightly. So I've got both feet on the leash, my hands are free, I can do my cooking, and if I wanted, I could have treats in my pocket. So while my puppy is being so good and just laying there, every now and then, unless it's gonna make your hands dirty to cook food, I could reach down, give my puppy a treat. Oh my gosh, what a good puppy. And I'm doing all my fun cooking things. So if you tether the dog to the person who's cooking, definitely step on the leash so that they're not jumping up and banging into the person who is doing the cooking. That might be too hard for the puppy or the individual who's cooking, in which case you can always put the puppy in a crate. If there's an opportune time for the puppy to do something naughty, so like when you get in the shower, if you are doing work at home and you're like, I really need my full focus on this thing in front of me, cooking, cleaning dishes, you can put the puppy in the crate. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to hurt them. They might be a little bit sad about it, but if they're in the crate, then they're out of the way and they don't have the chance to do something that you don't want them to do. The more puppies get to practice doing naughty things, the better they get at it, and then it becomes a habit. So think of anything that you do in your life that's a habit, and then how hard that habit is to break. And you're a human who can conceptualize a habit and like really think about, I need to stop doing this. Dogs are going to have a harder time breaking habits. So if we keep them from forming the habit in the first place, then there's nothing to untrain. So putting them in a crate is going to be basically like the end-all final solution, because then they don't even have the chance to jump up on the counter. You can also make sure that you've got doors closed or have baby gates or an exercise pen blocking access to the kitchen so that the puppy doesn't go in without you. If they wander in the kitchen without you, then you won't catch them if they decide to jump up on the countertop. That's not great either. One thing that I like to do with puppies is I will be in the kitchen with them and I don't have any goal in mind other than I might pretend to be cooking or going through the refrigerator or what have you. And anytime my puppy goes near the counter and starts to get that look of like, I think I want to jump up here, I call my puppy, I make myself really exciting, and then we move away from the countertop. And so I'm interrupting that jumping behavior before it happens. And then I'm also building a pattern that's going to be really useful where the dog thinks about jumping up on the counter and then they suddenly think, oh, I need to do something over here instead. So those are the preventative measures that you can do to keep them from jumping up on the counter in the first place. When you catch them actively jumping up on the counter, if your puppy listens to the word no, so if you say no loudly and clap your hands or, stomp your feet or something, and the puppy turns to look at you and is responsive to the word no, that's an effective word to use. If I say no to a dog and they just carry on with their life like they didn't hear me talk, then no isn't an effective word and there's no point in me continuing to say it. So if saying no is effective for your puppy, you can yell no, clap your hands, stomp your feet for them to be like, oh geez, I didn't even realize you were watching me, and then they jump off the countertop. What I prefer to do when dogs are somewhere they should not be is I prefer to hip check them out of the way rather than hold on to them. Because our hands have so many good qualities to them, they involve treats, they involve pets, all of the good stuff comes to our hands. I prefer to just body block the dog out of the way. So for example, if I'm washing dishes and my dog tries to jump up on the countertop, I just knock into them to knock them off the counter, because that's less of an interaction with them versus grabbing onto them, pushing them down. A lot of the times dogs think that being pushed is like a game, and then they're like, oh, this is fun, this is great, I want to keep doing this. If you want to grab onto them with your hands, you can. That's just not my preferred, that's not my preferred method. I would rather just bump them out of the way or body block them. And since dogs are generally body sensitive with each other and also with us, I feel like it gets the message across to them more clearly of this is my space and you need to move. Some of our raisers find it effective to use things like double-sided tape or tinfoil to put up on the edges of the countertop so that when the dog puts their feet up, it's uncomfortable and they don't like it, and then they're more likely to stop doing it. If you use those tactics, you should be very consistent with them, because if I put the tinfoil on one day, but then the next day I don't, and my dog jumps on the countertop and the foil isn't there or the tape isn't there, in the dog's mind, that's a victory, and then they'll still continue to repeat the behavior. So when we use things that is technically a punishment, it has to be every single time the dog does it, otherwise it's not going to work. If you use double-sided tape or tinfoil and the puppy puts their feet up there and then they don't care and they just keep going about their business of sniffing the counter, that's not an effective deterrent, and so there's no reason for you to continue using it because it's not doing what you want. Some of our raisers also like to set a trap where they put pop cans on the edge of the countertops, and then the dog knocks into the pop cans fall off, it startles the dog, and then they don't want to jump on the countertop anymore. A lot of puppies will get wise to that, and so they won't jump up on the countertop if they know that the trap is up there. So when you, no thank you, no. When you use those kinds of tactics, you have to be fair, you have to be really firm and concise with it. So let's say, for example, If my puppy jumps on the countertop and then they jump down and then 5 seconds later I scold them, that's not really effective communication, and they don't fully understand why I am upset with them. And it also can make them more sneaky, where they just kind of get an attitude of, okay, well, I'm just gonna do it next time when I know you're not looking, in order to avoid you getting upset at them. That was super long-winded, but it's on video, so you all can watch it later.